Everybody, and welcome back to Renegade Radio. Want to give you a quick introduction before we move into the episode. One, you're going to realize that there's a difference of quality between what you're seeing now and what you're about to get into. But here it is that the difference is much, much better. It's just that I disconnected the camera just before I did this and wasn't thinking right. So you're going to have much higher quality and resolution in the video. So if you're watching, you're going to get more out of it. If you're just listening only to the audio, the audio, I haven't worked on the quality on that just yet. So there's that. Number two is that there is going to be a section of the episode in which I will be using some biblical language, but I want you to stay with me through that because I do essentially translate it into something that's a little bit more universal language, a little bit more secular for everybody to be able to take something of it out of that lesson. So stay with me on that one. Other than that, I think you guys will really have fun. I really didn't think this one was going to go an hour long. The first 9 minutes are kind of, I don't want to say rambling, but it's kind of just a longer intro of me just catching you guys up where I've been. So you can fast forward if you feel like you need to. If not, you're on the drive and you know you're going to get stuck in traffic somewhere, then please, by all means, hang out with me during that. But this is a solo cast. I haven't done it for a while. I think I said I haven't done it for a year, which I think it's pretty close. And I might be a little bit rusty, so I would appreciate much grace. Really would love your feedback on this one, guys, because there is some things that we talk about in here that we can definitely dive way deeper in, which you might be able to find more useful or more beneficial for you if I can take some time to research it for you and pull out the lessons that are needed. Anyway, that's enough of me rambling. Hopefully you guys enjoy it, and I'll see you on the other side. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Renegade Radio Special Edition. This is season number 2. I'm going to assume episode 006, but that might be pending. We'll see what happens here in the future because I have recordings that are coming up. Anyway, want to say hello. It's good to be with you guys. Good to have you one-on-one. I haven't done this for almost a year, I think, actually, since I've done a solo episode. Wanted to catch up. I'm going to actually use this episode as practice for something else. Not something else, but I'm going to use this as practice for going forward, changing format. So this is going to be a hard demarcation line in which you guys are going to see some differences and some things that are going to happen as these episodes roll out. First is that what I do want to bring to attention is that you have seen the rebranding of Renegade Radio. You see a guy or girl with a hoodie, just no face, with a microphone. And so that's intentional with the idea of it not necessarily ever being me, and knowing that even with Renegade Training, I'm starting to slowly brand it to where you don't see me, because it really should never be about an individual, but it should be about a collective whole, that it could be really any one of us. And so that's kind of the whole point, and why that individual, the renegade in Renegade Radio, may be wearing a hoodie, has a microphone in order to speak, but is faceless, because it could be really any one of us. And that's the purpose behind that. And so anyway, it just also kind of looks cool as well. And anyway, so that's one thing that you probably have started noticing. The thing that you're noticing today is that the quality of the video is a lot higher, right? And so as I progress forward and continuing to make these episodes for you guys, is slowly starting to increase quality. And now with the visual component here, hopefully that this is going to add just maybe a little bit more value, and it's not just my webcam anymore. Although I'm sure there may be days where I'm sure that might happen. The next thing that you'll probably also realize is that I'm probably gonna end up speaking a little bit slower, and I know I mentioned this in season 1 as well, in that I wanna be able to produce better speech for you guys. There's something I value highly in the spoken word because it contains so much power and resonance and frequency from person to person. So I want to make sure that when I speak, there's a little bit more being a little bit more deliberate in how I deliver what I am attempting to say. And so it may sound disjointed here at first. It may sound as though I'm learning English for the first time. But in order for the long term for this to be not only of more value of or of higher quality, but in order to have as much impact as possible, I believe that the spoken word and being able to speak correctly will, and not just correctly, but more intentionally and with the right, not just inflection of words, but the right emphasis, being able to put essentially dramatic pauses in, and just really learning to speak well through this medium, and not just as many podcasters do. They've gotten really good at being able to speak without hesitation. They've also been able to speak without using the ums, the likes, the uhs, the little breakup words. And so I want to know if there's an ability to be able to produce a different type of podcast, especially on these solo episodes, in which the words will carry a lot more weight. And I believe that I have a gift in being able to do public speaking and then also being able just to speak. Even earlier this week, another trainer said, "You have a really good voice, a really good commanding voice." And I've even had girls that I've dated who said that your voice is really relaxing. All that to say is that the ability to do this well, to not just only provide high visual quality, but to be able to have a type of audio quality that would really speak to the soul, really speak to your heart, so that this would be something that would really be challenging. One other part that you're probably noticing too is that Skaya is in the room with me. On these solo episodes, I don't really care if she's in the room with me. If you don't like it, apologies. Um, if you're a good audience, I'll put her on camera for you guys and you get some puppy time. So anyway, that's some of the stuff that has been going on in the background and what I've been doing. And so hopefully this is something you enjoy a little bit more, in that there is more intentionality. And for those of you who have been along for the ride and have been watching Renegade Radio even from the beginning, that hopefully we're seeing an exponential curve, like we're seeing things starting to take off. But what I wanted to say is, what I wanted to go over first is, and the other thing that I'm going to be doing is, I've been fighting really hard to not look away from the camera. But in the beginning, what I realized is I wanted to be able to look at notes and to be able to, so I can construct something that's a little bit more fluid. And plus, I had questions for guests, or there were certain introductions that I wanted to read. But because of the way the teleprompter works on Riverside, and I just haven't been able to get that timing right. And I'm taking a lot of inspiration off of Stephen Bartlett from Diary of a CEO, and he has his iPad and he's looking at stuff. And I've seen other podcasters as well. They look at their notes too, and just to make it a little bit more real, so I'm not forced to having to memorize stuff. I think it'll be a little bit more. It should be just more real, and I'm not having to fake something in front of you guys. So it's not that I have up to this point. It's just more of, I'm not attempting to memorize something that's just really difficult. And then while not paying attention to guests, and I'm fighting to keep track of what they're saying along with, oh, their notes that I want to be able to get back to. So anyway, you're going to probably see me looking away from the camera a little bit more. to look at my iPad, and or notes that I've written. And if you saw the interview with Ray Hayes, I actually was writing down on sticky notes some stuff that I had, and that's what more you're gonna see of. And anyway, so it's not that I'm being distracted or looking away, it's because I have notes and I'm actually taking notes. So that's also what we're gonna see experiment with, starting today. Now, what I want to, for today, there's some things that there's just been so much going on since I've stepped off on my own, for Renegade Training and, also with Renegade Radio, but because there has been so much more, I just don't post as much anymore, um, which is fine, which is okay, and I'll talk about that here in just a second. But some of the things that I wanted to talk on, for today is that I wanted to share what I'm going through, which is the neurofeedback and the thawing process that I'm going through, and I'll share more on that. Business documentation, the good, the bad, and ugly, what's been going on there. Wanted to share a little bit more about Renegade Training and why the color orange, not necessarily about Renegade Radio, even though I'm wearing a Liverpool jacket right now, which is bright red. No worries about that, but we'll talk a little bit about orange and why you'll probably see that more in postings. And some of the things that I've been learning mostly have been coming from the time that I've been spending with just reading the Bible through Colossians. And again, before I go any further, is that knowing that there are both people who are of the Christian faith and those who are not, I will do my best to be able to share and essentially translate is what I'm going to do. Take what the Bible says and then talk to my fellow believers, but then also be able to translate that so it applies to even those of you who don't necessarily adhere to any type of faith or any kind of philosophy or worldview or what have you. So then that way, because I want you to see how it just applies, because these truths are still universal and can still work for all of us, regardless of what it is that we're believing. And be able to talk a little bit more about that. So, having said that, let's get into it. And let's see. Let me first go through neurofeedback. Um, and I just realized that see, this is why I need to write stuff down. This is reality happening in the moment, in that there are things that I want to bring up why I needed to, because now I just forgot what it was the other thing that I wanted to talk about, but we're just gonna go ahead and skip ahead. So let's first catch up on what is happening. Let's go through. Let's see. The first part, let's go into what I've been up to. Oh, I do remember now. So this is what I'm going to share. Just before I get into the actual main structure of the episode, is that the reason why I haven't also been keeping up with the posting on social media and LinkedIn, if you count that as social media, which I do. Over Christmas, there was something I realized, maybe November and into Christmas, and there was something unique that happened in that I wasn't on social media nearly as much anymore, and I wasn't posting as much as I normally do. I wasn't even sharing Liverpool's wins, even though this season has been horrid. But the thing that I've realized is what it came down to, it felt good to not be controlled by what these algorithms have for us, right? And these little dopamine hits, things that are, controlling us subconsciously or in a subconscious way, in which we'll pick up our phone and we'll just look at it. Not because we have anything to look at. Sometimes we'll just do it because it's just there and we just need a quick dopamine hit. Not to mention the algorithms that start showing things on our feed. And over that month period, I want to say it might have been a little bit over a month, that I wasn't even logging on to social media, and I didn't post, was I came to the final conclusion that I didn't want to be controlled by that anymore. And so all of the business things and all the business gurus, everybody that I respect, from Gary Vaynerchuk to Dan Martell to Alex Hormozy, Jason Phillips, even though I mean, he's still producing some of his stuff. But anyway, I respect all of them. And I think all of them are absolutely right, because, and we're going to talk about these systems here in just a second, but in order for Renegade to be what I want it to be, and for it to stand for what I want it to stand for, is that I don't want to be a slave to this system and to this algorithm, which does not exist, which isn't physical. It's not a person. It's not something. It's just it's a computer program that is intended to control how I use technology, and I don't want to be part of that. I know subconsciously a lot of you out there don't necessarily want to be part of it either, and I know many of you are starting to, you'll delete Instagram and Facebook and or any of the meta apps, YouTube. You'll start taking that off your phone because you realize that not only is it just jacking with your head and making you feel like crap, but the thing is you are starting to slowly, like subconsciously, there's something within you that's telling you, like, I just do not want to be part of this anymore. And so that's another reason why Renegade Radio exists, is that we are not going to be people who are going to be controlled by these invisible forces that are meant to control our lives. And even these podcast episodes, as much as I would like to have this released on a weekly basis, just from a consistency point, which would be good for me and for you guys when you're expecting it. But the thing is that we shouldn't be dependent on these algorithms, and we shouldn't be dependent on the consistency of who the creator is or whatever, right? That's not the way we should be living life. Is like, oh, today's Wednesday, so I guess today is the day that, we get to listen to, whoever it is that we listen to. And as much as I listen to the deep end and appreciate that Taylor Welch and Jake, publish their episodes every Wednesday, I mean, that's great. That's fascinating. Gives me something to keep entertained. But I'm going to do my best to kind of stay consistent, but I'm not going to put myself under some false sense of urgency just to get something out into the internet, right? It's not who I want to be. It's not what I want Renegade to necessarily stand by or stand on, is that we will no longer be controlled by algorithms. Um, and we'll talk about systems here in just a little bit. But before we start getting into systems, let's first talk about neurofeedback and where I'm at in this. You may not find that my personal story or my adventure through this is necessarily going to be engaging or fascinating for you as the watcher or listener, but let me just share a little bit of what I'm going through, because there may be a good chance that there's somebody in your life that might be enduring, and dare I even say suffering through what I had suffered through. Now, if this is your first time tuning in, thanks for being here. Just a quick overview of my story is that in 2008 to roughly about 2009, I had fallen into a really, really deep depression, which coincidentally was also the time that the nation and the world was going through depression through the great financial crisis. And during that time, it was a really, really long, long, long recovery period. I am just now coming out of that. So if we say 2008, we're looking at 18 years, which is roughly 2008 is when events started happening. And it's probably actually when I started going into depression, but I didn't really actually start feeling it until about 2009, in the first parts of 2009. And anyway, you through 2000, I would say 2018, roughly around that time is when I started really exploring and finding that I had depression. Like, I was finally with it, but then I was diagnosed with a very specific type of depression called dysthymia, which essentially means that all my emotions were flat. Eventually, by 2020, when COVID starts hitting, I think it's roughly when it starts becoming relabeled as some kind of persistent persistent depressive disorder, something like that, PDD. And so it changes, but I don't know why they changed it, but it still was the same thing in which my emotions are blunted. Thinking is very challenging, cognitive ability to plan, like higher level planning, higher level organization, to be able to think into the future, just non-existent. Last year in 2025, I started going to a neurofeedback clinic called Brain Code Centers, which I don't have an affiliation with them yet, but I do like them. And I'll even show you this now because I actually have the headband here. But since 2025, I've been doing this neurofeedback deal. I'll even show it to you guys. I don't think I've ever even posted this on any of the socials, but for the better part of the last 6 months or so, I've been at least going through this protocol in which I will wear this headband. It's got these diodes on it, and I'll wear it on top of my head, and I watch this video, and the video will either get dark or the screen lightens up, and the sound will also dim along with the screen and or have volume increase depending on if my brain is doing what the protocol is set to do. Well, in 2025, one of the clinicians saw my brain map and said that, "Oh, Steve is actually has been in a freeze state as in fight, flight, or freeze." And so for the last 18 years, for the most part, I've been in a freeze state, which means that I've been essentially stuck, which is exactly what I've been feeling. But now that I've been going through this protocol, after having discovered that I've been in this freeze process, I'm now going through a thawing process. And it's really challenging, actually. And I'll be writing more about it because I find that's actually a little bit easier and a little bit more therapeutic for myself. And it's not something that they recommended that I do. This is just something for myself. And I'll be putting it into blog posts, but it's really messy. Sometimes emotions will come out. Like I found myself crying one time when I was driving to work because of this podcast that I was listening to. That's never really happened before. Maybe one time, I think, because I was in college and I was driving because I was homesick or something like that. But so there's some random things that'll get me whenever I'm watching Netflix or movies or even over the Olympics. Like after Lindsey Vohn's crash, and I saw her teammates kind of doubled over, and you could just sense it. You could just feel it. Like like they felt for their teammate, and yet they were opposed with this giant mountain that they had to bomb down for a competition because they spent the last 4 years of their life attempting to, become the gold medalist in this. But they know that, they had this teammate and legend go through this tragic crash. Anyway, but I felt emotion coming out from when I was watching when I saw the two teammates. Anyway, emotions started happening, but now, and I'm starting to find like it's loosened. Like the grip that I felt that was around my brain and my mind is slowly starting to loosen up a little bit. So it feels looser. Like after a muscle's been really tense for a long time and then it finally kind of loosens up. It's kind of the sensation that it kind of has from a mind standpoint. And so it makes it a little bit easier to focus and makes it just a little bit easier to maybe switch tasks and do things. And so it's different, but this is probably the most progress I've seen in the past 18 years or even 8 years since I started this journey of healing like ever. So it's really good stuff, but it's really interesting. So hopefully, as this is almost like video documentation of how I progress, and hopefully, you guys are able to see a little bit more life and a little bit more joy come out as more of these episodes start coming out. So anyway, that's what's going on there in the neurofeedback world. Now, as far as business, the good, the bad, the ugly, what's really tough, I'm not gonna, because you guys are probably not gonna be as interested in this unless you're some of my business-minded people out there. But for my fellow entrepreneurs who have already been are veterans in this journey, I'll tell you what the good part is. The good part is that I feel freer, that I'm able to do, like, I'm able to build this on my own, that the way that I believe business should be built and the way things should go and how I should lead myself, like, all of that stuff is really freeing. Everything that I've learned in the past and taking all the mistakes and all the things that I've learned from previous bosses, even if the boss was good, but was I didn't agree with, like, I'm taking lessons from that and applying it. Taking things that I learned from the physical therapy clinic where there were a lot of good things from that that I'm also taking from that and starting to figure out how do I start applying that. One of the I don't wanna say it's bad, it's more of a challenge is that because as a business owner, you have a very specific way of how you see your business growing and building, but that makes it also really lonely. And what's interesting is that currently I'm in a gym where there are other trainers and we're all contract trainers. We all have our own clientele and thankfully we're all chill, we're all cool. But, they have their ways of how they wanna build their business. Renegade Training is gonna be I don't wanna say very different, but it is going to be different from how they wanna build theirs, in that the way that, I've learned from NCI and from some other business people and groupings that I've been part of is that I'm just changing the model of training a little bit. And when I was at the last gym, previous place, that there were just a couple things that I've realized about a trainer's life is that if we are beholden to a larger entity, even if it's a smaller gym, that entity has control over you. And one of the lessons I was learning during that is that they will value your time how they see it. So, I could have been the best trainer they ever had, but then if they put my rates to the clients that came in, not based off of the fact that, I had physical therapy experience, that I can do, certain types of manual therapy. I can identify movement patterns that are causing pain, get clients out of like sciatica and plantar fasciitis and tennis elbow and all these things that are nagging and do it quicker and more efficiently than other trainers can. It doesn't matter because they have control over your time. So they see your time as what they rate it, not dependent on you. So I didn't like that. The other thing that I didn't like is that if clients canceled on you, like, most of the time, thankfully, my clients are really awesome, and they never canceled on me continually, right? They canceled on me because, "Oh, I woke up sick," or, "Oh, I have a business trip," or, whatever. One, I get that, and that's life, but the thing is that the way that I see trainers is, like, if we are really good and I value myself as high as I believe I should be valued, I should be looked at no differently than an attorney that's on, retention or a professor that's on tenure, right? Because what I provide is gonna be a value source that will be higher than what the training industry normally has. And so I will present myself and do things with Renegade Training that should represent that, which will make it very different and look very different. Which meaning all that to say is that it makes it a little bit more lonely because I can't necessarily. I can look at what other trainers are doing. I can look at what other businesses are doing, and so it just makes it lonely, it makes it tougher and more challenging to build this deal, with a brand new vision that I have seen. The other trainers that I have in the past that I've spoken to and other business owners and even some former clients have said like that is actually a really good model and even been that's the smart way of doing it. but yet I've not met another trainer who's done it. So I'm kind of out here on my own doing stuff, which is fine because it works with my personality and my identity, which we can go into later, maybe another time. But I need to speed this along. So that's what the good, the bad, and ugly, what's going on in business. I wanted to mention this too for those of you who are watching this. I know I'm wearing my Liverpool jacket right now, but if you've seen me in the gym or you've seen a lot of these posts, a lot of times I will have at least bright orange on somewhere, right? And then if it's not bright orange, then it's like a stark black and white deal. The reason why orange, though, and I just wanted to talk about orange, is because everything that when I started Project Delta Soccer, which was, back in 2010, 2011 timeframe, there was a very specific reason why I had those colors of white, red, and black. And those were the only colors I used. I used, and I'll do this in order. I used black because that was to represent darkness, to represent sin. Red was to represent Christ's blood, and then white to represent a new person, our new identity in Jesus. And so that's what I used to be able to represent that. Now, with Renegade is not necessarily with as deep of a spiritual context, but still kind of holds a little bit of that spiritual not language, but symbolism behind it, in that the bright orange, which is supposed to be and this is a very specific one because I've taken it from the Toyota 4Runner TRD 2023 version, solar octane orange, because I just loved how it was powered by the sun, but powered by gasoline somehow. And just brought across this really bright orange. And you've seen these vehicles around. There's just not many of them, which is even more so what I love about it. But you cannot miss this bright orange. Now, why orange? Because it represents a couple things for Renegade and for myself. For myself and Renegade, the reason why, because of the dark night of soul that I've been, there's nothing that is more hope hope filling than seeing sunlight, than seeing a sun rise and that light coming from darkness, and you see that bright orange and you start seeing color and you start seeing life again starting to fill the sky and bathing the ground and bathing the earth with this brand new light, and something that's warm and life-giving is just fills it's just so good for you. And that feeling of sometimes you just want to close your eyes and you just want to feel the heat and feel the light hit your face and hit your body, because it does something for you, right? And I want that orange to represent that. And the other reason is for fire. The same reason is that fire within darkness, it presents light and a source of hope, that everything around you could be telling you to do something different. But when you have just that one really bright fire that's burning, that you want to be around that light. You want to be around the warmth of the fire that's there providing the light, the warmth, that's providing a source of comfort for you. If you've ever been camping, or if you just have a fire pit out in the backyard, there's just something about that fire. And I want Renegades is eventually this starts building out, and I can get merch to finally launch. But when you wear that orange, when you wear the white, you are presenting something to the rest of the world, in that there aren't many of us, and nor should there be many renegades. But you're going to be wearing essentially a source of flame for others to hopefully see that, one, they'll definitely recognize you, and two, they'll start wondering, like, well, why are they different? Like, you seem like you're hope filled. You seem joyful. You're not conforming to these systems and to these patterns of the world, that you don't do things. You don't even move the same. You don't eat the way that we do. You're just different. And so that's kind of what I want it to be, and to make sure that when we stand out, we're going to stand out. We're not going to hide, or we're not going to cower behind just the regular colors of just a red, a white, a black, a yellow, and orange. Or, I mean, orange is what we want, but a gray, green, whatever, just standard colors. I want just something that's stark and something that's out there, that we can all recognize. So anyway, For those of you who ever asked, Steve, is orange your favorite color? It's slowly becoming a favorite color, but it is not my favorite color. So there's there's that. If anything, if I had to choose, it'd be like an ocean blue, out in the Mediterranean or in Southeast Asia. All right, let's technically get into the meat of this. I will do my best. We're at 32 minutes right now. This might end up going into an hour because I want to take some time on the stuff that I've been learning, just because it will be beneficial for all of us. It's not just for me, even though I'm the one who's learning it right now and going through it. But for all of us, I really believe that it'll be challenging, as it should be. Renegade Radio should be challenging. When we listen to other guest stories and how they got to where they are, and some of either the things that they had to overcome, some of the false identities that they had to go through, like, it should challenge you. We should be asking questions of ourselves. And these solo episodes, that's going to be my goal as your trainer, as your coach, not as necessarily a podcast host, because I think technically anybody can do that. But for me, for who I'm called to be, and the way that I train clients, the way that I coach, the way that I've taught Bible studies, it should start challenging us. I'm not saying I'm looking for necessarily a change in the way you live, or, I mean, as much as that would be great, but this should be more of, this should be kind of like a fire. It should be kind of like a fire, in that as I get closer to the fire and the heat starts becoming more intense, it should start revealing things. There should be things coming to the surface that you're like, oh, I've either A, I have never thought about that. B, that's something I have been thinking about, but I just won't admit to it. I just won't get to it. C, some kind of combination of the two, or D, all of the above. And so hopefully it does something to at least bring an awareness so that you can acknowledge it, so that way you can address it, so that way you can change it. Because there are going to be some patterns in some of these things that I want to talk about, which at first I'm expecting you to actually push back. And I'm okay with that, because I pushed back. So let's just get into what I've been learning. Let me share some of it. Hopefully I can get this done into 45 minutes, but if it ends up going to the hour, it goes to the hour, and we'll just see what happens. After all, it is my show. So what I've been learning, let's go into the first part. Something I've learned, and I'll give Taylor Welch and the Deep End team, I'll give them the credit for this. And it was something Taylor mentioned just to add up, and I don't even remember which episode, but at least I'll link the Deep End in there, so you guys can, if you're interested or curious about it. But Taylor mentioned something about the book of Colossians, and how, like, if you want to really start kind of rewiring your brain, like, and rewiring your mind, that's the book to go to. And so I started reading it, and I started doing it in a kind of a deep dive way. And in full disclosure, I've been using ChatGPT as kind of like a Bible study supplement and teacher. And so I'll use it to kind of dig a little bit deeper into, like, what do words mean, and how else could this be expressed, or what's the overall arching arc and narrative of what Colossians is saying, or what the chapter is saying, or what the Apostle Paul is saying. And so again, before I go much further, stay with me. So even if you're not a Christian or a believer per se, that's okay. That's great. Trust me, just stay with me on this, because I think you're going to find this to be super, super useful. Getting into the second chapter of Colossians, and when it gets into it, what you see is that Apostle Paul is essentially breaking down false systems in the world. in the way that the church of Colossae and how the Colossians were believing and what they were wanting to do, and how they were wanting to proceed with their faith. And so anyway, it came down into false systems. And this is what I am going to share with you here on these false systems. So I'm going to give you the false systems that are based, biblically based, and then I'll give you the ones that are, I just won't use as much Christian language behind it, because I want you to be challenged by all this. So first, what are the false systems? There are 4 of them that Paul names, and let me actually just, again, so this is why I wanted to have the note, so I'm not just attempting to bring this up from memory. Here we go. So Paul is dismantling these systems, and so these systems, these false systems, are anything that, from a Christian standpoint, are promises that fall apart from Christ, requires constant effort to maintain your identity, uses fear, shame, or superiority to motivate, or makes you feel behind, incomplete, or not enough. False systems are not evil or are always evil, but they're often almost always true. So they're a type of essentially counterfeit. But if you can kind of relate to that just from the Christian language, I'm hoping that this, by the time I get a little bit more into the secular stuff, that this will become a little bit more, this will do something to kind of like really, really kind of provoke your thinking. So the first one here of the 4 is performance systems. These are the performance systems that have you say that I am what I produce. And this is what most of us will fall in, because these are our jobs, right? Like, tell me what you do for a living. And then by you telling me that you're an accountant, or that you work in finance, or you're that energy or tech, you're telling me that you make an X amount of money, that you have this kind of intelligence, that, and you start falling into these categories, right? So this false system and performance systems is that you associate yourself with the hustle culture, the grind identity, and that especially that your output equals your worth. The result is burnout, comparison, and anxiety. The next one is control systems. If I'm, and this one would be categorized as, if I manage everything, I'll be safe. This is how you can identify it with either perfectionism, over optimization, and micromanagement. And your result ends up becoming rigidity, fear of rest, and relational breakdown. So this is a lot of you who are out there, especially on this relational breakdown, in that probably more maybe within a family context, is that you are, this, like, you are attempting every single, and you're good at it. You are attempting to control all these little aspects of life to make sure that if I manage and can hold on to all these plates that are spinning in the air, and all the, it's essentially like a snow globe. Shake the snow, everything goes up. Now I'm going to control every flake as it comes down. But the problem is, somebody's going to come along with that snow globe, tap the snow globe, controls everything that you once held is now no longer being held, because it's now back all up in the air. And then because of your relational dynamic, things are very stressful with your friends, with your family, because you're controlling all of this. It's like, I can only hang out from this time and this time. I can't hang out this time because I need to go to sleep and whatnot. Now, granted, there is a level of discipline and stuff that goes along with that, but it's almost like your friends and your family just kind of keep their distance away from you, because you're the control freak. You're the one who's attempting to micromanage and whatnot. And even your employees, if you're a leader and you're micromanaging what your employees are doing because you need them to reflect good on you, so that way you can look good for your boss. And anyway, I can guarantee your employees are not happy with you. And that's just me being tactful with that. Number 3, spiritualized systems. Now, these are for those of us who have lived in the church for a long time, and probably this is where a lot of church hurt has come from. So spiritualized systems, like, I found a deeper way, elite knowledge, mystical superiority, constant and next revelation. Your result is pride disguised as humility. And I've run into a lot of people in the church who are like this, in that the knowledge of the Bible is what they hold on to because that's what they are good at. They are good at church. Like, I'm good at my job. They are good at church. But the problem is that they hold me being good at this little activity over everybody else. And I'm sure I've done it too at some point, especially as a Bible study teacher. And nobody was calling me out on it, which is the other thing I don't agree with. I don't know why anybody didn't, if I did. So if you're watching this and you're in one of my Bible studies, expect you to DM me and say, Steve, you did do this. Um, yeah, and I see this a lot within social media and some of the Christian aspects. And then there was somebody from, I can't remember which church, but this person was, in order to like meet this like spiritual level, he was essentially looking up people on Facebook and then saying that he had a word from the Lord to talking to these people's lives, but all he was doing was just like looking at their profiles and stuff. That's jacked up. But it's that kind of level of saying like, I've got this way, and the universe is speaking to me and I'm hearing differently than everybody else. So this is why you should follow and obey me, that kind of stuff. And it's a weird kind of philosophical deal, which is called a power play, right? So it's like, if you listen to me because I have the way, because I have this truth, that then you should obey everything that I'm saying. But the problem is like, well, if you're saying that, but you're also calling out the BS in it, so it's a weird dynamic. Anyway, all that to say is that that's one of the it's a false system. That's all I'm getting at, is that it's one of the false systems. And this other one, I don't know actually how to pronounce this word. I think it's not aesthetic, but it's ascetic. Um, I'll look up at the word and I'll post something later about it, but it has something to do with discipline only systems, saying less pleasure equals more holiness, punishment based discipline, self-denial without renewal, harsh self-talk framed as growth. Your result is that you're going to have strength without joy and obedience without life. Now, let me fast forward this. I'm going to read those exact same ones, but I'm going to put this in the more secular context. Okay, so the first one would be, again, performance. I am what I produce. This one's everywhere, and we know this one in the Western culture, is that your value equals your output. Your worth rises and falls with your results. Rest feels like a weakness, which is something I have a hard time with, and slowing down feels dangerous, also something I struggle with as well. The problem is that performance is unstable. There's always someone faster, stronger, smarter, and more visible. And because the system requires this system requires constant proof. This system runs on comparison and cortisol. Number two, the control system. Right. So if I can manage everything, I'll feel safe. So again, this goes back to the micromanager. But underneath this, there's a fear that's underlying, and that's why you are micromanaging. So it's the fear of abandonment. It's a fear that I'm not good enough. It's a fear that I don't measure up enough or measure up to. So you can name the fear because you probably have a good idea of what it is. If not, I have a way of being able to identify that. You weren't meant to, or you were not built to control everything. You were built to operate with uncertainty. And I know that sounds crazy, but this is also something I've been learning about living in mystery. But the system tells you that uncertainty equals danger. So you tighten up and slowly you start losing flexibility. And so if that's you, just know that Colossians 2, again, this is coming from the Bible. You can read in Colossians 2, that could be describing you. Number three, the superiority system. This was that spiritualized one for number three. I figured something out, others haven't. This one is subtle. It shows up as intellectual elitism, spiritual elitism, self-improvement obsession, and always chasing to the next level. Now, it feels like growth, but often it's ego. It creates a quiet hierarchy. I'm further along further along than most people, and it keeps you isolated. Because when your identity depends on being ahead, you can't afford to be vulnerable. So you keep climbing, but never feel connected. And I know a lot within the self help area. I know that's where a lot of people will fall under and categorize themselves under. And I think this is where these dopamine hits of just like, I keep learning, I keep learning, I keep learning, and has this sense of like, I know all this stuff and not everybody does. And so now I am just gonna lord it over everybody. Um, Early on, for me, that's kind of where I was. Granted, I was looking for something to hold on to and attach to because the church had hurt me so badly that I didn't want to go necessarily back to the church, but I did keep going back because I just needed to get out of the house, and my friends were there, so I had to keep going back. And anyway, but as I started learning more and more and more and more, I it wasn't that I felt prideful, it was just more of like, "Wow, I just know a lot of cool stuff," but I never applied it. 1, it was just really hard to apply it because my brain wasn't working back then. And 2, even if I did, there was probably still a lot of fear I was having to deal with that if I stepped into the uncertain, into the unknown, then that meant that would mean I would lose control, and my brain was already protecting me from anything more that was going to potentially hurt me. Anyway, okay, and then let's go into the last one. This is the harsh discipline system. If I'm harder on myself, I'll become better. If the system sounds strong, you punish your mistakes, you eliminate pleasure, grind harder, shame yourself into improvement. It produces short-term results, but it destroys long-term stability because growth driven by shame creates strength without peace. You become effective, but you're not free. That one, I probably would when fitness was not slowly, but first coming onto the scene, like, people were starting to become fitness influencers, and I fell into this when I was starting to do boot camps, quite a bit in that, I'll push harder, I'll do more than what the average person will. I will run up this hill faster, I'll do really, really hard workouts, and I still do at times because I still believe that we should do hard things. I would sign up for Spartan races, gonna do Spartan races. I would do these 10-mile runs in Houston summers, which I do not recommend anybody do. Stay hydrated on those. And to some level, like, that helped me survive, and that helped me get to where I am now in a certain way, but I will have to say that, you know what, you there is unfortunately a type of pride that does hover above you, and then you start putting it over everybody else. And even though again, I still believe that there should be really challenging things that you should do. It should never be a lifestyle because you are not free. You are being bound by a false system that is unseen by a world that's telling you that that's what you should be doing, and that's not right. And so these false systems are corrupting our soul, they're corrupting our mind, they're corrupting our hearts, they're corrupting our relationships. And even though you might find a community of people that are around you that are kind of thinking the same thing, that just means you have a community of people that have also believed in one of these false systems that Paul addresses in Colossians 4. Are there more? Yeah, probably. But anyway, Colossians 3 is what Paul will go into, and he starts dismantling all of those systems. But anyway, I found that was really, really useful for me, and it's something I've been using to identify. So mostly to live one in a more of in a connected way, not meaning that I'm integrating slowly, like, I'm starting to bring things more into alignment with how I believe God has made me. If you don't believe in God or you more fall under the category of the universe and spirituality, then bringing into alignment of more of what you believe the greater source has brought you into. Like, you should be in alignment because if you're not, you're going to be disjointed and operating out of dysfunction. And you'll know it. And how? Because there'll be a source of conflict in you, and you'll probably be leading to burnout. There'll be more cortisol. and you'll be freaking out over everything. And you'll be micromanaging everything. These false systems are prevent. That's how you know if you're in one of these false systems. So I'm still learning through it. I'll probably read through Colossians again. I'm in Hebrews right now, but I'll probably have to circle back into Colossians anyway, because just so I can start reprogramming myself and becoming more aware of what I've fallen into. Now let's get into the last thing. These are the things that I have been learning. The last thing is self-sabotage. Then we're going to end on this. And yeah, this is going to go into an hour. This is the book. Hopefully, I don't know if you'll be able to read that, but this is called The Mountain Is You by Brianna Weist. Weist. I'm going to say Weist. Anyway, I'm going to read. This was brilliant. This is the first line in the first chapter. And I'm like, oh, this is my life. And right now, Sky is looking at me like, like I'm nuts. Anyway, this is chapter 1, entitled, what the book is entitled after, The Mountain Is You. There is nothing holding you back in life more than yourself. And then she opens up with this. If there is an ongoing gap between where you are and where you want to be, and your efforts to close it are consistently met with your own resistance, pain, and discomfort, self-sabotage is almost always at work. That one hit hard, huh? And I know that's exactly what I've been doing, is that there have been these, and for those of you who know me, who have known me for, well over 10 years, you probably have noticed that. You're like, Steve has done all this stuff, but he can't seem to make it. He can't seem to get to that next level. Well, let me read you. There's these different types of self-sabotage that she lists, and I'm not going to read all of them, or I'm going to read all of them, but I'm not going to read like all the stuff. You can get the book yourself, or if you can DM me or something, and I'll I don't know. I'll find some way. Just get the book. It'll be a lot easier, right? Because at least you'll have a copy of it. Okay, let me read through this so we can get this done in an hour. The first type of self-sabotage that she lists is resistance. Now, with the resistance, this is essentially where we can't bring ourselves to do a task just because it's just either mind-numbingly boring or whatever. There's just a feeling, like the feeling of like, I just do not want to do this. And there's that resistance of what the task is and what you need to do. And so that's the first one. And I know we've all experienced that. So anyway, this one is the one that is just blowing my mind, and I keep coming back to, which is called hitting your upper limit. Your upper limit is essentially the amount of quote unquote good that you are comfortable having in your life. It is your tolerance and threshold for having positive feelings or experiencing positive events. And she'll go on to say that we are not wired necessarily for happiness, but we are wired for comfort. And I just wrote a blog post on this, which eventually I'll write more about, which I'm finding is true. I went to go get ice cream, this certain type of ice cream that a friend of mine introduced me to, and I thought like, wow, that's really good. And when I went to go grab it, I realized like, oh, I'm grabbing the exact same flavor. Why? Yeah, it's good. And yeah, it does kind of make me happy, but it's because I know it, because I'm comfortable with knowing that that was good and it made me happy. But what about other flavors? They make other flavors too. So why am I not going for that? It's because of the mystery of the unknown. I don't know if that's going to make me happy. So I intentionally got, instead of the brownie fudge or whatever one it was, I ended up getting the chocolate chip one, the cookie dough one. The cookie dough one, it was all right. Well, I'll get it again. Yeah, maybe in the future, probably not, but I'll go get the brownie one again just to reset, but then I'll get another flavor to test it out. But notice it, become aware. You are not like, you're not wired for happiness. You won't let yourself be happy, which everything in your life can be going really well, and then you will torpedo it. You'll torpedo something because you'll dial it back to what you are comfortable with. It's like a David Alcott. I'll link the episode. I think it was like my second or third interview, and I'll have him back on soon. It told me if you think about it, it's very similar to a thermostat. So if your thermostat is set at, let's say 70 degrees, that's really hot. Let's call it like 67 degrees. 67 degrees is set at for your ultimate, like that's where you're comfortable being happy. If things are not going well in your life and you're not happy at your 70 degrees and it starts getting too cold, the heater will kick on. So you come back up to 70 degrees to get back to that state that you previously knew was happy. But what happens if you get too happy? Now, if you get too happy and it's getting too hot, the AC is going to kick on to cool you off to bring you back into that 70 degrees. And that's what's mind blowing to me is that we will not allow ourselves to be in that happy because you can have everything going well in your life. Your job can be going well, family could be doing well, all your friendships are going well, everything is going well. And then whatever comes along that makes you happy, that one thing, that one extra thing, which is unknown, unexpected, and you don't know what it's going to do later on in the future, and you'll shut it down. You'll completely shut it down just so you can get back to what you can control because that's what you're happy with. And if you're not mind blown with that, I'm mind blown because of this. Wow, let's get to the other ones. Okay, so that one again was called upper limit. This one's called uprooting, where you will just keep restarting. Like you will get comfortable with the process of starting over, but never stick with it to actually grow something. That's like you moving to a different city all the time, so always starting new projects, but projects are left undone, that kind of stuff. Then there's a few of these, so I'll do my best to get through this. Perfectionism. You're not being a perfectionist because you are. You're being a perfectionist because you're afraid of something, and you're essentially stalling. That's what that one comes out to. Limited emotional processing skills. That's kind of where I've been as well. Justification, disorganization. Let's see. Then this one, attachment to what you don't really want. So that's another one. Judging others. I haven't gotten to that one. Pride, guilt of succeeding. I know some people, I ran into somebody recently who said that they have a fear of success, fear of failing. I know I have that one. Downplaying, unhealthy habits, being quote unquote busy. I know I fall into that one. I haven't even read that one yet, but I have a feeling many of us will fall into that because we always give the answers like, "Ah, I'm just so busy." Are we though? Spending time with the wrong people, you'll do that because it becomes confirmation bias, worrying about irrational fears and least likely circumstances. Yeah, so that's about it. And then she'll goes into how do you tell if you're in a cycle of self-sabotage. Like I said, I haven't read all of that. Like I'm only in chapter 2, but this has already been amazing because it's causing me to identify certain areas of my life that I need to change. And as I continue to start pursuing more into mystery, more so than living in the known and what's controllable, I think that will open up more life to me, and hopefully it opens up more life to you. We're at the hour mark. Didn't think we were gonna make it that far. Thank you for staying with me for this long, up to this hour mark if you have listened. I really, really do hope you have enjoyed what we talked about today. If this is something that you found really interesting and you want me to go deeper in, please message me, and I would be more than happy to definitely start researching more of this. And then obviously as I finish the book and learn more about self-sabotage and as I uncover more things about I'm sorry, about these false systems, please let me know about that and I'll dig more into that as well to be able to present something that'll be actually a little bit more useful, a little bit more tangible and tactical so that way you can also apply it. I'm hoping also in as I close this is that the other episodes where I will be essentially doing a solo episode, a solo cast, is that I'm going to change the format of it. Tonight is not going to be that night for it because I just wanted to catch you guys up on where I've been at and what's been going on. But I'm gonna save it as a surprise for the next one. I'm not gonna reveal it just yet. So hold on tight to that. something to look forward to. Please, again, guys, if you found this useful, please share this podcast with somebody. Like I said, there's not going to be many renegades. This may not resonate with everybody, but for the few that do, we need to at least get the message out there and keep growing the Renegade Nation. Everybody, thank you so much for listening in. Thank you for listening to me ramble and watching this new system. Hopefully, at least just the visual itself has helped with the higher quality camera. Everybody, thank you so much. This is Coach Steve, always saying, never conform.